Welcome back to another episode of the King's Pulse podcast presented by the King's Herald. My name is Brendan Nunez, and today, joining you live from Golden One Center, right after the Sacramento Kings beat the defending champion Golden State Warriors in their first game of the playoff series against these two Northern California teams. Sacramento came out on top 126 to 123 behind big games from a lot of players, to be honest. De'Aaron Fox obviously was phenomenal with 38 points, 29 of those coming in the second half. Malik Monk had 32 points. That's playoff debuts for both of these guys, two guys that have never been in the postseason. A huge storyline coming into this was how much does postseason experience play a factor in this? Two guys that have never played a minute in the postseason, balled out, 230 balls. I think that Davion Mitchell is phenomenal tonight. He played 22 minutes. He played more alongside De'Aaron Fox than I feel like what we see typically. And the stats don't pop off the page or anything. 3 points, 4 assists. There's a block and a steal in there as well on 1 of 3 from the field. He was the first one to hit a 3 for Sacramento when I believe they were 0 of 7, and then he comes in and is able to hit one, the only one he hit all day, 1 of 2 attempts. But that was a big 3 that he hit. His defense on Steph Curry, of course, was just big time in this one. Same with Jordan Poole. I thought that he had just a lot of defensive impact, as you expect from Davion, and I think he did a great job hitting the paint, and making plays for others on the offensive end as well. I thought he was phenomenal. Harrison Barnes, the 3-point shot wasn't going down, but I think he did a good job rebounding in this one. 7 rebounds is big. 13 points as well on 5-11 from the field. Still an extremely efficient night for him. And there was a moment De'Aaron Fox talked about it post-game that Harrison Barnes said, let me take Steph for a little while in this box and one that we're doing. And so you can get a little bit of a break here because De'Aaron was doing a lot on both ends of the floor. So I know I just kind of rambled through. Also, big game from Alex Len and Trey Lyles. I never thought that Alex Len would possibly be playing in this series. It seemed like a crazy idea to me. What do I know? Trey Lyles, phenomenal. 16 points on 6 of 8 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3. Huge game from Trey Lyles as well. And I mentioned rebounding for HB. You could say the same thing for Trey. 6 rebounds for Trey. I know I just kind of rambled off going through the box scores, but going to plan on breaking down some of the things that I thought worked well. What stood out from Golden State's side as well, where the Splash Brothers were getting it done, and they had some good contributions from the bench as well. Get a little bit of my opinions on how I thought Andrew Wiggins looked, and also have post-game audio that we're going to include in here from all of Harrison Barnes, Coach Brown, Malik Monk, and De'Aaron Fox. And I did also get to sit in on Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry's defense or post-game pressers, and ask them a couple things. So we'll include some of what they had said, although I do not have the audio for that. It'll just be kind of me saying those quotes out loud. What I want to start with, though, is this crowd, man. This was ridiculous. A ridiculous crowd in Golden One Center, and everybody knew it would be that, right? All 18,253 people that were in this building. It was packed 20 minutes before tip-off. The entire stadium, it seems like every single person is in their seat. They're on their feet. They're trying to, they're just electric that far before tip-off. And then it continued throughout the entire game. And I think the big standout thing, and we could tell pretty quickly here kind of in warm-ups, or even just being in Doco prior to this, which had its own energy altogether. I mean, I've been in this building since 1:30 in this building, Doco sort of area, kind of all one and the same. And there's just been an electric energy the entire time, but you didn't see many Golden State Warrior fans leading up to it. In Doco, it was like, oh, there's not that many. And every couple you see are getting booed by a surrounding crowd, or during warmups, like that last game 81, I believe it is, the final regular season home game. Obviously, a lot of Sacramento players sat out, which I think had an impact in that. But it was a lot of Warriors fans, and you could see it right away watching Steph and Clay warm up. That wasn't there today. it wasn't there today. De'Aaron even said post-game that he honestly expected there to be more Warrior fans, but there wasn't. Sacramento showed out tonight. It was loud in here. Like, a reporter next to me that writes for San Francisco Chronicle was talking about how her watch was going off, saying that it was a noise warning. And I got to say, I've had that warning pop up a couple times here. And maybe that, that which says a lot about Sacramento fan base in general. And they're just always extremely loud. But tonight was on a whole nother level, man. I go down in a post-game presser and I'm like, man, I think my hearing is a little messed up right now. And at one point I'm like, there's a very slight ring going on right now. It didn't last very long, but that says a lot, man. And I just want to get straight into that. Actually, I have quotes from these players and coach talking about the crowd. Actually, I don't think I have coaches in here, but I do have a couple from De'Aaron and HB, which I think are the two most fitting players as the longest tenured Sacramento Kings at this point. So we're going to start with HB, who, said it was a little emotional for him even.
Harrison, just the crowd, the whole atmosphere, just how big is that for you guys to get this first one under your belt?
It was incredible all night. I mean, I think when guys ran out for layup lines, I think how loud it got in there, I think everyone got chills. I think that was pretty special just for us, just to see the excitement that, everybody had. I think that, guys were just playing off that adrenaline all night. I mean, I think it was a lot of emotions coming in this game, and I think for us to settle in, our first playoff experience together and get a win was big.
Yeah, I mean, the players feed off of that. I think that's no surprise to anybody, and you could see that tonight. HB got asked in another sort of way, I think it was, about that crowd later in the presser, and this was the quote that really stood out to me.
Harrison, Joe Davidson, Sacramento. For you personally, you had some tough years here as a team leader. How much joy are you feeling to get this one in?
Man, it's crazy. When I very first got traded here, we were pushing for the playoffs, and I had a vision of what it would be like to make the playoffs here in Sac, and it was a lot of long days, just working and just being in the facility, being in these games. And so, to run out there tonight, and to see that and to see the fans, it was exciting, but, honestly, it was a little emotional just being a part of that, and really just happy for the fans.
I can't say how happy I am for this fan base. Obviously, as you guys probably know, I haven't been around for the entire 16 seasons in 17 years. So I personally don't have that same, I'm just not honestly able to relate, unless it's not the same as going through it, right? Hearing about it. But obviously I know what this team means to this city. Got to watch the 30 for 30 doc last night, actually, that helps give a lot of insight into kind of that entire process of even just keeping the team here, man. And I'm so unbelievably happy for this fan base that they got to experience this. And this is just the beginning, is the idea. This is a 7-game series. We're going to have to see how this goes. Harrison has been here for a long time. I'm extremely happy for him that he's able to experience this city in the way that he wants to, that I'm sure he wanted to, and he gets to experience that. And the same for HB, or for De'Aaron Fox, excuse me, that these guys that have put so much into this team and spent a long time experiencing those ups and downs, and a lot of downs, which I think is me kind of stealing some wording from De'Aaron that you'll hear in a second here. But those guys are the closest players on the team that I think can appreciate a fraction of what the fan base has had to deal with. So amazing environment. I'm sure they were happy to win it for the crowd. Here is De'Aaron talking about the Golden One crowd tonight and kind of just the atmosphere.
Truth be told, I actually thought it would be more Warriors fans in, because I've played them 4 times a year for the last 6 years, and I've seen it. But so I think Sacramento showed out tonight. I think it was Trey walked by and he was like, "Yo, this is the loudest arena that I've ever played in." And we've talked about that before. We know what this fan base is about and what they want to do. And like I said, we obviously we want to win for ourselves and for each other and for everybody in this organization. But doing this for the fans, just knowing the way that they support this team, through thick and thin, like through really thin. I think it's just a testament to the way they are, and it was definitely a great atmosphere tonight.
If anyone in the YouTube chat ever wants to throw any questions my way, by the way, go ahead and pop them in there, and if and I can possibly get to those, but I want to start by talking about. I guess we'll start with initial matchups. There was the starting lineup we saw from Sacramento tonight was their typical starting lineup: De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. And on the other side, with Andrew Wiggins, as we knew, was going to be coming off the bench coming into this one, but he played 20 to 25 minutes, was at least the number that they had him pegged at. He ended up going to 28. And he came off the bench, so that meant their starting lineup from Golden State's perspective was Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Dante DiVincenzo, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney. Right away, what do I want to start with? Kevin Huerter was guarding Klay Thompson. De'Aaron Fox was guarding Steph Curry. And those are the two big standouts, really. And on the other end, you saw De'Aaron Fox being defended by Dante DiVincenzo. Let me make sure. I'm second-guessing myself here, guys. I'm going to pull up these notes and make sure that I have this right. My game notes that I should have already had prepared and out in front of me. Let's see. What's good, people in the chat? All right. I do got this here. I was correct. Dante was guarding Fox. Steph was guarding Kevin Huerter. Draymond was guarding HB. Klay Thompson was guarding Keegan Murray. And Kevon Looney was guarding Domantas Sabonis. I want to start with honestly giving credit to Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney was so good, man. I think that, as somewhat expected, the Warriors played really far off of Domantas Sabonis. It's like, I think it's a smart way to go about it, that if he wants to take mid-range jump shots, let him take mid-range jump shots. And honestly, from Sacramento's perspective, you don't really want Domas settling for mid-range jump shots. And he didn't tonight. I think that when Looney is playing so far off of him, a lot of what we saw, and this is what ended up getting Malik going, is that, okay, well, if you get Domas involved in a two-man game with another guard, whether that be a DHO, a dribble handoff, or a pick and roll, then that forces Looney to either get up higher in defending that pick and roll, the guard coming off of that screen, or he's allowing him to get downhill, get some downhill momentum going towards the basket. And Malik got that working for him a lot. And that can either be, you want to try to finish through contact at the rim through Kevon Looney, or if you want a mid-range jumper, I guess is an opportunity in that aspect, but more often than not, it was like kind of a push shot or a floater that was working there. So I think that there were times that Domas maybe took a couple dribbles and tried to be aggressive in attacking Looney that was a couple steps away. Like, okay, maybe I can get downhill and attack him. And Looney did a great job, man, matching the physicality of Domantas Sabonis and really making him work this entire game. I think that Looney did a phenomenal job, far and away the best job of anybody on Golden State's roster. Like, when it was Draymond Green, it was just not quite the same. Like, Draymond is a fine defender. Looney played better than Draymond did defensively in tonight's game. The Kings couldn't hit shots for the life of them at the beginning of this game, and that was kind of the story on both sides, really. At halftime, Sacramento was 4 of 16 from beyond the arc, and that includes 0 of 1 from Harrison Barnes, 0 of 3 from Keegan Murray, 0 of 1 from Domantas Sabonis, 0 of 2 from Kevin Huerter, and 0 of 3 from De'Aaron Fox. That's 0 made threes in your starting lineup. And Sacramento has 2 guys that take at least, 6 or 7 I think was the threshold, if I'm remembering correctly, or more 3-point attempts a game and knock down 40+% in Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter. So to win a game where those guys are a combined 0 of 8 is extremely impressive, but it helps when you're getting some 3-point shooting from, De'Aaron Fox hit some big threes late in this game. He ends up going 4 of 8 from beyond the arc. Trey Lyles was the only one hitting threes early in this game. He went 4 of 16 from beyond the arc. Malik Monk was getting it done from beyond the arc when he did take them, although he wasn't settling that much, which I thought was a pretty impressive aspect of Malik's game tonight. And obviously the free throws, man. It's another big difference in this game is that you saw Malik Monk go 14 of 14 from the free throw line, including 2 huge ones. I believe Sacramento is up 1. Malik gets sent to the line, and he's 12 of 12. And it's like, oh, shit, well, can you really make every single shot, every single free throw, all 14? And he did it. He did it. Malik walked up there, hit 2 ginormous free throws for Sacramento, and he was just a huge aspect of their success tonight. And this is from King's PR. Monk going 14 of 14. Excuse me. Sheesh. Monk went 14 of 14 from the free throw line and is the 4th player in franchise history to make 14 free throws without a miss in a postseason game. He joins Peja Stojakovic from 2001, Oscar Robertson from 1965, and Bobby Wagner from 1952. Shout out Malik Monk for a phenomenal game. He was part of the closing lineup with the other starters in place of Keegan Murray. Keegan did really struggle tonight. There was definitely times that a coach timeout was because of Keegan, and he lit into Keegan a little bit. Keegan played 16 minutes. Like, it was better to go with Malik Monk, with a Trey Lyles, with a Davion Mitchell, than it was to look towards the direction of Keegan Murray tonight. He really struggled defensively, and if his shot's not going down on the offensive end, like, those defensive shortcomings just hurt a lot more. He's not making up for it on the other end, but that's going to be an adjustment for him. This is one of the hardest teams in the NBA, I think, for a younger player to get accustomed to defending against. It's so much read and react and just trying to be quick. There were times where he was just maybe half a second too late to rotate or overplaying and then gets beat back door, or he's guarding Clay in a semi-transition is the one that stands out to me in the corner. And then he sees kind of Steph running up to get open, and he is like, well, damn, I don't want to leave the best 3-point shooter of all time open up there. So he goes up towards Steph, and Clay just instantly goes back door and gets the easiest layup of the night. And this is like semi-transition, not everybody is back for either team, and that gets called right away. So it's just going to be little stuff for Keegan. I think it's going to be an adjustment for him. And even if that's part of this process, you have other guys that are able to step up. We saw Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk, Trey Lyles. As I mentioned, Alex Len was great in the non-Domantas Sabonis minutes. I thought that Domas was going to have to play 42 minutes. I was like, man, backup 5, can you even mess with HB a little bit at the backup 5 when Draymond's out there? Maybe it's Trey Lyles, maybe it's Chimezie Metu. I thought it made no sense to go with Alex Len. I thought if Alex Len got involved in the pick and roll, that the shooters, primarily Steph, but also Jordan Poole, the shooters those guys if Alex is playing too high up, they'd be able to blow right past him with a little bit of a hesitation dribble. And that if Alex was too far back, that's an easy 3 for those guys to be able to pool. But he did a great job moving his feet well enough. They did a lot of pre-switching to make sure he wasn't involved in that pick and roll. And then his help side defense was really good. It was really good. Seeing actual rim protection from the Kings still kind of blows my mind sometimes in a traditional, just not rear view contest or anything like that, but just a big man being in between the guy trying to penetrate the paint and the rim, and deterring a shot. It was a great sight to see. Alex Len was phenomenal. He won the Defensive Player of the Game chain, extremely well deserved. De'Aaron Fox, man, there's a lot of questions on what does playoff De'Aaron Fox look like. Like, this guy's not played in a playoff game. What can we expect from him? He's been extremely clutch throughout the course of this season. He probably gets that first ever Jerry West Clutch Player of the Year award. But what does the postseason look like? This is a whole different animal. Well, De'Aaron said post-game that, you know what, I actually think I have the quote. Let me just play it here. De'Aaron kind of talking about his first playoff experience.
Guys, Jason Anderson, Sacramento Bee, congratulations. De'Aaron, first of all, you get to this stage for the first time in your career and come up big for your team. Just kind of want to get your thoughts on your performance tonight, and Malik, if you could talk about the way De'Aaron played tonight as well.
I mean, obviously we all want to be in position to do this, and you get out there. For me, I wanted to see, how different the game is. I want to see how physical the game really is. How much can you essentially get away with? And I think the first half, I wouldn't say shocked, but it took me time to get adjusted to it. And I think he did a hell of a job carrying us through that first half. But in the fourth quarter and at the end of the game, like I said, we talk about this countless times. My teammates are confident in me to go out there and make plays for myself and others. So the least I can do is go out there and believe in myself.
Yeah, man. Fox been doing this all year for us. I knew he was going to turn it on in the second half. It just took him a little minute to get adjusted. That's why we a team. And we got other players out there to do what they do. But, yeah, man, Fox has been like this. He's been great for us all year, and he continue to be great for us.
What he does, man. Doesn't matter if it's the postseason or not. This is one game. I am going to be that guy where this is one game. This is extremely encouraging. I have to stop myself from getting too caught up in this because Golden State could come out and have a big statement winning game 2, and you feel extremely different about this series. The reality is, when it comes to seeding, like, the Kings are supposed to win this game when you're the home team. I know that it goes beyond that. There's a reason that everybody picked Golden State, admittedly myself included, and the Kings will still need to continue to prove themselves until people change those opinions, which, again, myself included. Ask me after game 2. I said prior to this series, if the Kings can win the first 2 games, I think they win the series. But winning these first 2 games is going to be extremely difficult, and today is half the job done. Half the job done when it comes to Sacramento, just maintaining home court advantage. And De'Aaron Fox was a ginormous part of that. He had 9 points in the first half, and then he puts up 29 in the second. You heard him talk about just getting adjusted to sort of the physicality that is playoff basketball. There's always talk about oh, well, this is just different in the postseason. X, Y, or Z is just doesn't happen, or this does happen, but it doesn't happen in the regular season. De'Aaron got to play Mythbuster a little bit and figure out what is and is not true about all the things that are said. Got a feel for it, man. For it to take a half for De'Aaron to get it adjusted, extremely impressive. And it took Malik Monk no time to get adjusted on the offensive end. Malik was phenomenal. As I mentioned, there was a moment where it looked like, okay, well, him and Poole are kind of just evening each other out in this first half. And then Poole ends the game with 17, and Malik just kept going. He got up to 32 again on 8 of 13, 2 of 4 from 3, and those 14 of 14 from the free throw line was huge. It's absolutely huge in this one. So here is Coach Brown talking about the impact of Malik Monk in this one.
We know Malik right here. We know Malik's got a big personality, and when he plays, he's always aggressive and getting his shots up. But to see what he did tonight, what'd you make of that, particularly in his playoff debut, and how much does his personality rub off on his teammates when he is encouraging guys, and particularly guys off the bench, to do what they do?
Malik is a confident individual, and you can feel that when you're around him. And, I told him there were a couple of times where I thought he touched that paint, and he had a couple of sprays in the first half. And I told him, I said, Malik, I'm not trying to call you off your shot. I'm going to live with you shooting the ball. But when you touch that paint, if you can feel it, we got guys wide open on the perimeter because they're either A, trying to blitz you, or B, and so they're sending two at you, or B, they're sending a second, sometimes a third body when you hit that paint. I said, now, again, I know you can score, and if you don't agree with what I'm saying, you do what you want to do, and we're going to live with it. And, you could feel Malik's confidence, and we need that in games like this because he ain't afraid of me and he ain't afraid of the moment, which is what we need.
Not afraid of the moment. That is for sure. And I think that's also a great example of Coach Brown's coaching style of, he's going to give his input, but also trust his players when it comes down to it, when they've shown that they deserve to be trusted. And Malik falls into that, obviously. It was a ginormous game from Malik and also De'Aaron, as I mentioned, offensively. But De'Aaron made a really big impact defensively in this one as well. He was a primary assignment to Steph Curry, which is always going to be just something that takes an entire team. And different guys spent different times on Steph. You saw Davion do it. You saw Harrison do it for a little while. Just doing their best to keep up with Steph, and went to a box and one, got creative. But De'Aaron specifically, I would say probably spent the most time as an individual guarding Steph Curry in this game. He played 40 minutes, did everything he did on offense, and just watch some of these possessions of him chasing Steph Curry around, man. It looks like the most tiring thing in the world. And he talked about that right here.
James Ham, ESPN 1320. De'Aaron, 40 minutes of play, the 38 points is impressive, but to be honest with you, your defense was probably some of the best we've seen from you in your career. Just how much is that who you have to be, and how exhausted are you after doing that on both ends of the court?
Did y'all see that clip of J.R. Smith? Talking about Delhi? Did y'all see that clip? That's just real. it's real. Obviously, I didn't guard Steph the entire game, but most of the first quarter, most of the fourth quarter, I guarded him. That clip is real. Obviously, my team wants me to do things offensively, but, and Mike talked about it as soon as he got here, he's not worried about what I can do offensively. He wants to see me, be better defensively. And that's something that that I want to take the challenge of doing. And, I think we've all seen it in spurts, but I want to be able to do it throughout the course of a game. And playing 40 minutes, scoring 38 points is cool, but just trying to be as disruptive as possible while guarding, if not the best player in the world, the best player to ever, jump shot wise, shoot a basketball, not just off the catch, but off the dribble. The guy's probably one of the craftiest players to ever touch the ball. Just to be able to just try to be disruptive for me, I think is the biggest step. And I think that's kind of something that I don't care to prove to anybody else, but I want to prove to myself that I can go out there and just try to hound, some of the best guards in the league.
I would imagine that today is a step in the right direction of De'Aaron proving that to himself. He did a great job covering De'Aaron, and it's obviously great to hear him take pride in doing that. And admittedly, doing a good job on Steph still means a box and one, and he puts up 30 points on 11 of 20 from the field. Steph is going to get his. It's about making life difficult. And for anybody unaware, when he says when he asks if any of us have seen that clip of JR talking about Delhi guarding Steph, it's if you look at the Old Man and the Three, the JJ Redick, Tommy Alter podcast, that they, on their Twitter page, they posted a clip recently of J.R. Smith talking about pretty much, it says Delhi almost killed himself when trying to guard Steph Curry, that it was just the most physically brutal thing. You're just sprinting around chasing him. There's pictures of Delhi in sort of cold chambers to try to just rehab his body and sort of the recovery process from having to chase around Steph Curry. And Delhi's really just asked to do everything on defensive end, right? Even when he was guarding Steph back in his time with Cleveland, De'Aaron is also asked to do things offensively. And it was a great performance from him on both ends. I'll be interested to watch back tomorrow to kind of see just how good I thought he was defensively. I thought that he was impressive, but I just want to kind of be able to see to what extent, really. Davion, like I said, did a great job. And actually, we saw a box and one in that second half. I think it was in the third quarter that got pulled out, and it worked. Steph said prior to this series that he wouldn't be surprised if Mike Brown did use a box and one, that they used that a lot when Coach Brown was in Golden State, and he wouldn't be surprised to see it. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And anybody unaware, a box and one means that Steph Curry is the only person being guarded in man defense. And they initially actually did this with Kevin Huerter, and then the other 4 players on Sacramento's defensive lineup are playing in a zone, a 2-2 zone. And pretty much Steph Curry's being double teamed every single time he goes anywhere. And if there was ever a screen, they would end up switching, and then that person would replace the person that they just switched with in sort of that box and one zone. It was something that they've messed with a little bit throughout the course of the year, but actually got to ask Coach Brown about it post game. And his answer was very entertaining when it came to this box and one that was pretty efficient and effective for Sacramento.
Yeah, Coach Brendan Nunes, Kings Herald, that box and one that you mentioned, we saw a lot of in that second half. What allowed your team to be successful in running that, and how well do you think they did of going in and out of that coverage as you called for it from the sideline?
They did a great job, and we don't work on it a ton, and it was part of our game plan as coaches going into this series. And I won't forget, we were in the coaches meeting, and somebody said, "Hey, let's work on the box one. Let's work on this. Let's work on that." And I said, no, we're not going to, because the beauty of us going to a box and one is we don't really know what we're doing, which that may confuse the other team. So let's just let them play. And to back that up, when we were slapping the guy's hands going around, Alex Lynn, first thing he said to me, he said, "Coach, hey, can we go over the box and one? Cause I don't know what I'm doing." I said, "That's a good thing. Don't worry about it." And I kept it moving. So we have some principles, but the biggest thing is we just got to talk or communicate with one another, cover space, and if somebody gets cracked, then you go ahead and switch it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I understand the logic for sure. If we don't know what we're doing, then how are they supposed to know? But quite a strategy. Quite a strategy for your backup big to be like, "All right, Coach, I'd really love to go over this." And he's like, No, trust me. It's better if we don't know what we're doing. Sure, it worked. And that makes it pretty tough, I guess, for Golden State to then scout that box and one, because now Sacramento gets to look at it and make whatever sort of adjustments they want to make. And the chess match of a playoff series is just always extremely entertaining, and it's going to be very entertaining from both teams' perspectives. I think the most important thing for them in that box and one defense from Sacramento's perspective is really just communication and making sure that when a shot goes up that you're able to put bodies on guys and rebound. And then from the other side, got to ask Steph Curry about it post game. And he mentioned that, he kind of did hint at, he still thinks that it caught them. He knew to expect it, but he still thinks there was a slight adjustment that his team had to make to getting used to that. And one thing that you can do is just kind of, there's a handful of ways to beat a zone, right? You could just totally shoot your way out of it from beyond the arc. You can get to the middle of the zone and sort of collapse it and make passes from there. Or what you can do is you can overload one side, right? So if Steph is on the left side of the floor and he has one person with him, and then it's the box, meaning there's only 2 players on that opposite side of the floor, 2 defenders. What the Warriors would do is they would take Draymond typically, or maybe another one of their playmakers, put him on that side of the floor and just put 2 shooters pretty much right next to him. Give me one in the corner and one at not quite top of the key, but more so towards that wing. And it's like, all right, there's 2 defenders here. You can't guard 3 people. And that's another way to beat a zone, is to kind of overload one side. We saw Golden State start to do that, and I think they got a little bit more comfortable in being able to do that. But we're definitely going to need to see Sacramento just switch it up a lot. Like, Golden State didn't shoot the ball very well in this game either. They shot 53s. Holy crap. 50. Wow. 16 of 50 from beyond the arc. 32% on 50 attempts is not great. Obviously, Sacramento didn't shoot the ball amazingly either. I mean, they really did end the game with a good shooting percentage from beyond the arc. 12 of 32, 37% from 3. Like, that's a fine shooting night. You know, ideally, you'd be more efficient from 2 offensively. They were only 44.9% from the entire field in this one. But the Warriors are going to have nights where they hit more shots. And there were times that I thought Steph and Klay got good looks and they didn't go down. Like, Wiggins had a really big shot at the end of this game where he was wide open in his favorite corner, or his most efficient corner. I came to learn from talking to some of the Warriors reporters, and it just didn't go down. If that shot goes down, it's an entirely different game. Like, Sacramento absolutely deserved this win, but it was an extremely, extremely close game that just makes you think this is going to be a good series. And just like most people thought coming into this, it's going to be interesting to see. I'll say I don't think Jonathan Kuminga is very playable in this series. Well, he actually adjusted. The first half, he shot a couple threes, and Sacramento could care less if he's shooting threes. But he's one of their better players. This is coming from a Golden State team that is towards the bottom of the league, if not dead last. I forget exactly where they ended up landing in points in the paint per game. Jonathan Kuminga is one of their better players at getting to the paint and putting pressure on the rim and being able to score around there. I thought in the second half he did a better job focusing on that more often, but I do think that offensively for Golden State, he's a pretty big liability because Sacramento can just not really care too much about him on the defensive end. For example, when Draymond and Kuminga are both in the game, and that's the 4-5 for Golden State, and the 4-5 on Sacramento's side is Alex Len and Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles is guarding Draymond, and Alex Len is guarding Jonathan Kuminga, because you don't care about Kuminga shooting. You just need to stop him when he gets to the rim. And Alex Len is capable of doing that. It lets him play in more of this like free safety role and it takes him out of any sort of pick and roll defense scenarios. And instead you have Trey Lyles deal with that responsibility. So I thought that was a good creative, just little thing that Coach Brown was able to slip in there, but you can't really do that if Jonathan Kuminga is not in the game. He played 10 minutes tonight. It'll be interesting to see the sort of minutes that he gets moving forward. I thought that Gary Payton was okay. He came out of the game when he came out of the game, he went back to the locker room for a little while. Not really sure what was going on there. He did end up coming back in the game after the fact. But GP2 and Dante DiVincenzo both only played 20 minutes on the night. And we know this is a Golden State team that has a lot of reliance on 4 people when it comes to the offensive end. It's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Jordan Poole. Like 3 of those guys averaged 20 plus. Steph right around 30. I think it's 29 point whatever. And Andrew Wiggins was flirting with 20 on the year as well, although obviously he only played 37 games and had just quite the unique season. So it'll be interesting to see what can be worked out, if anything can be worked out with Kuminga's role from Golden State's perspective. I thought that Dante would get more reps on De'Aaron Fox, but we didn't really see that happen that often. He and Gary Payton both got in foul trouble. There were a lot of whistles in the fourth quarter of this game after I thought they were letting them play and be pretty physical early on. But yeah, I mean, I honestly think that this is a worse than average shooting night for the Golden State Warriors, and about on par from Sacramento's perspective, and that plays a pretty big part here. And some of that has to do with shot selection. Obviously, Sacramento played good defense, but like there's going to be nights where the Warriors hit more shots, and the Kings will still need to be better, and there's going to be nights. I mean, not very often you're going to get nights where Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray combined for 0 made threes, but how often is De'Aaron making 4 of 8? How often is Trey Lyles making 4 of 6? Like those kind of, I think, will even out if you are able to get the spacing from Huerter and Murray of them knocking down shots. I think that's pretty big. But this was a very good win for Sacramento. If anybody in the chat here has any questions they want to throw my way as I kind of start to wrap up, then let me know. This is kind of just quick thoughts and reactions to the game. Tomorrow I'll watch it back and then have a better idea of what I think potential adjustments could be moving forward. But I thought that De'Aaron Fox did. I mean, hitting those couple threes is obviously phenomenal and really opens up the game for him. But I thought he did a great job of like fully getting downhill. Like, okay, you're going to give me space to get some downhill momentum because you're just playing so far back on me. Then like, I'm going to take these couple dribbles, get into your chest and go for this tough finish at the rim through contact, which he's been phenomenal at through really most of his career. Or he stops earlier and gets to a free mid-range pull-up jumper while guys start backpedaling because of the threat of his finishing around the rim. That's easy. His floater push shot is right up there with John Moran as like one of the best in the league this year. So I thought he did a great job of like still finding ways to get to his spots and then knock him down. It was a great game from De'Aaron. There is one quote, post-game audio quote that I didn't get to yet and meant to within the flow of this, but overlooked it. So I'll play that here. It's just Coach Brown talking about De'Aaron on the defensive end, specifically when it comes to Steph. And while this is playing, it'll be sort of last call for anybody in the chat to throw potential questions my way.
James Ham, ESPN 1320. Mike, we've talked about it all season long with you. You started early in preseason talking about how De'Aaron has to be a two-way player for you guys. Yeah. The 38 points was nice, but his defense tonight was probably some of the best we've seen in his career. Just like what has gone into that, making him that type of defender?
Well, first of all, he's embraced it. He knows that he has to be able to do that in order for us to attain or achieve our goal. He's got to be a two-way player if he expects at all, at any time, to win a championship, and he's got to do it at a high level. He was really good tonight. You know, we try to give him a rest from time to time by throwing Davion in the game and letting Davion chase Steph around. We also mixed in a little bit of zone and boxing one, and we're going to have to keep trying to mix it up, you know, throughout the course of the game. But he's going to have to be not only elite for us offensively, but elite defensively. And that's what an all-star does. That's what a first, second, third team all-NBA player does. They rise to the moment, especially when the moment's really big.
And that is what De'Aaron did. L Beach in the Twitch chat says, thoughts on the atmosphere. Did you think the Kings would take game one? I thought they had a chance in game one. I honestly thought they would lose one of these first two home games. We're going to have to see how game two goes. My prediction coming in was if the Kings can win the first two games at home, they can win this series. But if I had to guess, I didn't think that they would win both the games at home. And the atmosphere was ridiculous. I touched on it at the beginning. Go back and listen to some of those quotes to hear. I think I got Harrison Barnes and Coach Brown and Harrison Barnes and De'Aaron Fox both talking about the crowd, but it was amazing. There were not many Warrior fans in here. Predictions for tomorrow's game. This is a good question. Let me pull up tomorrow's schedule. Let's see. I am getting to it here. Wow, they're starting with the Lakers and Memphis game, huh? At noon. I'm going to go with Memphis in this one. I think the Lakers have a good chance of coming out of this series. I think it's going to be just as entertaining as the Sacramento and Golden State one. But I'm going to go with Memphis early in this one. I think that it's going to I don't know who's guarding John Morant. I don't know if Jared Vanderbilt can be that guy. I think that's going to be an interesting thing for me to kind of try to see how the Lakers attempt to deal with him. And there's a lot of spacing and shooting that Memphis has around Ja. Jaren Jackson is, I regretted saying the other day on the Kings beat that Brook Lopez would be my defensive player of the year. I probably, as I thought about it more, was like, I think Jaren Jackson, I know the difference in minutes, but like extremely good and efficient and effective there. So I think they have okay guys to attempt to frustrate and slow down LeBron and AD as much as anybody can. I'll give that one to Memphis. Miami, Milwaukee, pretty easily giving that one to Milwaukee. I think that Miami is going to like totally beat up the Bucks in this series, but they win like 2 games at best. LA and Phoenix. Man, am I really just going to go with like the favorite in all of these games? What ended up happening then today? Technically, Sacramento was the home team, won, right? Cleveland lost. Cleveland is the only road team that lost today. Boston beat Atlanta. Philly beat Brooklyn. Yeah, I mean, I think the potential upsets are LA and LA, Memphis. I think LA could win that game. And I think that Phoenix is just going to beat the Suns. But they absolutely have a chance. I mean, I'm never going to not watch Kawhi Leonard versus Kevin Durant. That sounds like a blast to me. And then Minnesota, Denver. I mean, Jokic and Gobert is a pretty damn good matchup as well. I think that Minnesota can put up a fight in that series. And I think that tomorrow is going to be a good gauge for sort of attempting to figure out how that one might look like. Dirt and Rust in the YouTube chat asks, what adjustment do I think the Warriors will make for next game? I think they'll be super prepared for that box and one and probably get more towards overloading one side of the zone and kind of packing one end of the floor. I think that they've also gotten a little bit of a feel for maybe you don't let De'Aaron get to that mid-range, but I don't really know how to do that. That's the whole thing with De'Aaron. Maybe you send blitzes his way more often. Try to do the same with, like, maybe you try to blitz these guys more. I don't really know what the answer is defensively for the Warriors. I think that you could try more Gary Payton and DiVincenzo, that maybe if those guys don't get in foul trouble, that could be very big. I do think there's offensive adjustments we'll see for the Warriors, though. I think that, again, a lot of it has to do with being able to respond to that box and one. I think that they'll figure out ways to take advantage of Alex Len and not give him places to hide, like on Jonathan Kuminga. That just was, honestly, Coach Brown winning the chess match there. So that's kind of what stands out to me. But that's all I got here, guys. Like I said, I'm going to watch this game back again tomorrow. I'll have a better idea of what I think potential adjustments could be and just sort of some of the specifics on what did and didn't work amazingly in game one tonight. But what a night, man. What a day for Sacramento. It was an amazing atmosphere in here. I'm extremely happy for the city and the team that this gets to happen, but this is one game. It's a 7-game series. It's so far from over. Like, show up in game 2. Do it again. Do it again. Which is a whole lot easier said than done. Steph Curry said post-game he thought they played all right, that he knows they will shoot better and rebound better. And they got to win one on the road, so why not game 2? They are going to really be pushing to win game 2. Game 2 is a very big moment for this series. Every game matters, but like I think that we're going to know a lot about this team based on how, in this series, really based on how game 2 goes. But that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate everybody that's hanging out in here in the live chat and anybody that is listening to this in audio form, no matter what platform you're on. I appreciate you guys for listening, and definitely take a look at some of the work from the great guys and gals, myself included, that are a part of the Kings Herald, and take a look at their Patreon to support local independent Kings coverage. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Kings Pulse podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, and you'll hear from me again next couple days.